Hey guys, welcome back. This is my second attempt at trying my third episode of In My Unprofessional Opinion. My name's Sean. I am also Instinct Comics. I write a comic called Belial, and I drive for Cerber as well as a couple of horror novels. If you don't know, you should check it out. Anyway, this time we are checking out Faint 1 and 2, the Possession arc. And just kind of the heads up right this second, it is available right now on Kickstarter. So give it a shot, check it out, listen, find out what you're in store for. Anyway, I review independent comics, and this time, like I said, it's on Faint 1 and 2. It's the podcast where I review them and based on 5 categories, right? I've got story and concept, writing and dialogue, art and visual storytelling, lettering and readability, and then overall execution. And then I just kind of toss it all out the window and tell you what I actually think. Because sometimes being professional doesn't mean something's going to be memorable or successful. Sometimes the technical stuff matters less than whether the comic actually makes you feel something. So by the end of this, I'm going to let you know whether this comic is a page turner or a page burner, and you can decide whether my opinion matters or not. All right, so let's get into talking comics. Again, this is for issues number 1 and 2. I was able to review both of them, and the new campaign obviously is on number 2. So I'm going to focus mainly on telling you guys about issue number 2. So, first of all, the first impression as I was looking through the book, I always like to give you guys a good, solid first impression, is that the art from issue 1 to 2, it jumped for me dramatically. Now it's gone from like just like a painted anime type of feel now, and I really actually really kind of appreciate that jump. It is gory, so but it is also fun. So the opening thought for it. Basically the elevator pitch. I keep forgetting to give you guys the elevator pitch, and these guys are supplying me with them. So for the first time, the elevator pitch on episode number 3. It's basically an atheist may be forced to believe when demons and angels inhabit a godless, disease-ridden world. Sounds simple, kind of a familiar theme, right? I mean, just checking it out, and it's not really hiding a lot of what's going on. But my first impression, like I said, the art jump from issue 1 to 2 happened big time. There is a main character design change, which I thought was kind of a cool upgrade. And it does take you through that. There's like a scene in the bathroom where he's actually changing. He cuts his hair. He adds a little cross in the middle of his forehead. And so it's a lot of fun. Let me switch these here, and I will show you guys. We looking at the story, you can tell there's really some solid artwork this time around, and I'm really kind of happy about that. A couple of variant covers there, and it also gives you those preview pages. It looks like there's 2 different versions, a regular black and white and a color version. So that was kind of exciting to see as well, just even on their campaign page. And it went from like a partial anime manga feel to influence to a much more stronger presence this time around. But as we go on, first category, story and concept. Was the concept interesting to me? I definitely was intrigued. If you know me or anything that I create, I do like some of the darker stuff. So that for me is a lot of fun. Also, did it hook me? It hooked me immediately. Honestly, as I started looking at it and really kind of started reading it, I was pulled in really, really quickly, and I really have to give kudos to that. Does it feel original or familiar? On a technical aspect, it is It is kind of familiar, but to an extent, it reminds me slightly of the comic book Crossed by Garth Ennis, and I really have to say that is actually one of my favorite comic books series. So if you're familiar with Cross, you're going to get some of that feel with this indie series with the Faint comics. Let me see if I can pull up. Are we able to? There we go. I'll have them both up here as I'm talking about it, so you guys can see kind of what I'm kind of talking about. Um, let's see what else. Favorite story concept or element. The emotional core in this issue of the comic book between Keith and his sister Kimiko. Um, and Keith's instability in this issue, I thought was a really cool um, and strong dynamic. If you're looking at like I said, the technicality of what's making the comic story work. So for the story and concept, I am actually on a technical side of things. I would actually give it a 5-star. Super, super solid. Writing and dialogue is the next category that I was looking at. The dialogue, did it feel natural? Yes, it did. Um, Characters definitely had distinctive voices. For the most part, there was a little bit of muddiness there during some of the battles, but it didn't feel forced at all, and I really kind of appreciated that. Um, there are times though where the dialogue kind of felt more functional, and you lose some of the character voice because everybody during the escalated scene is super like set at like max intensity, and you can feel it. Let me just kind of show you guys kind of what's going on here. So I'll show you if I can. I wasn't going to go through the full comic just because I know that they have this campaign running. I wanted to show you guys what they put. But uh, moving on to and the rating for the lettering, I would give it a solid 4 stars. A little bit of that knockdown based on the functionality aspect of some of the dialogue. It could have been a little bit smoother, and you wouldn't have lost some of that um, like character voice. But moving on to art and visual storytelling, and for that aspect, I will zoom into the art here. Um, as you can tell, like I said, it gives me those crossed feelings. You can tell if you're not a fan of gore in a comic book, this is probably not necessarily your avenue. But if you're not afraid of it, then this is definitely your bag. And I am actually super excited about this one. Um, can the story be followed visually? Um, for the most part, yes. Does the art support the tone of the story? Actually, it really, really does. The panel clarity is clear, so I appreciate you guys can see there. Everything's distinctive that way. But I will say that as far as like the artwork goes, there is some consistency issue there, and at one point during one of the fight scenes, I kind of lost which character was which. But after I took a second, it started making sense. But the consistency on the pages was okay. Where this book actually really excels on a technical aspect is the fact, as far as the art goes, all of the character expressions are fantastic. And a lot of comics these days, I feel, will struggle with that facial characteristics and expression. And the coloring of this comic book, I feel, is outstanding for the vibe that it's going for. Um, Visual weaknesses, for me, some of the blood spatter pulled me out of it. Um, it became a little bit distracting at times. Um, but panels sometimes seemed a little bit too chaotic, and anatomy in a couple places was kind of wonky. So I did knock it down on the technical side for that. I gave it a 4-star rating for that. Um, but let's see. Anybody out there? I do this live, so I was trying to see if I could actually see if anybody was commenting. I think I would actually be able to see the YouTube comments, but either way. Um, so yeah, so art and visual storytelling, it got a 4, still pretty strong. And like I said, just those couple of knocks there brought it down. Nothing super world breaking or anything, so not too much of a knock there. Lettering and readability, was the lettering easy to read? Again, another category where I had to say mostly. Um, the balloon placement is strong, um, but uh, it struggled a little bit with like the sound effects. Some of the sound effects in the comic I felt kind of competed with the art instead of enhancing it. Um, and the angles that they kind of chose to put them at, like I know that they were trying to be dynamic with it, but it became kind of distracting. Um, to me, it feels like it should escalate. You should almost be able to read the action sound, the sound effect first, and it should lead you into the picture, kind of like as it's happening. Loud boom would make you jump at a movie theater or something, right? So that loud boom or that crash or something should happen, and then you should follow it into the scene. So based on that technicality, we're bringing it that one to a 4 as well. Which brings me to the overall execution. Did the comic feel polished? Again, mostly. It seems like it was polished, like in the middle, with a little bit of a rough edge to it. And honestly, that's like I said, the technicality of it. Due to some of the anatomy wonkiness, the sound effects, like I said, the competing, and then the blood spatter, that kind of stuff. Those little elements kind of brought it down a little bit. The pacing, I would put actually, when I'm kind of rating these as I'm reading, my categories for pacing is strong, uneven, or weak. And this one I would put between uneven but leaning more towards strong. Um, the back half of issue 2 accelerates really towards that strong mark, which is super, because that's what's leaving that last impression, right? Um, did the comic feel rushed? No, not really, except for, like I said, a couple of spots in some of the battles. Overall strength, like I said, emotional intensity, atmosphere, and definitely ambition. Overall weaknesses, clarity during the escalation. Um, like I said, some of that, you go from a plain moment and you jump into a fight scene, and you kind of lose some of that character voice, because everybody goes from that like a steady 5 to everybody being at a 10 right away. So that sharp jump kind of causes that compression. Um, sensory overload, meaning like the constant intensity and escalation. Like you said, the sound effects compete with the art, competing with strong dialogue. It causes a little bit of sensory overload. Again, nothing, like I said, world breaking, but if I'm going and breaking it down on that technicality, that is there. So my star rating for the overall execution, based on the technicality, I am going to give that a 4 as well. So with those final scores, it still puts this book in the strong recommend as far as an indie comic goes. But like I always say, the important question, now, like, forgetting the score for just a second, taking all of that stuff that I just told you in the last 15 minutes and kind of like tossing it out the window for a moment. Would I actually spend my money on this comic book? The answer is a strong yes. And the reason why I say it's a strong yes is because I actually did, after reading the issue 1 and 2, I still went back and I backed the campaign for both physical issues 1 and 2 of Faint. And I have to say that reviewing this comic book does point out the fact that it does make it a little bit harder as a reviewer to avoid kind of, purchasing some of those comics that I'm reviewing. Let's see, and why it's the why I would buy it. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of Crossed, and it gave me a very strong Crossed vibes. It's not a safe comic book, which I appreciate. So if you like the premise and the story that kind of like sticks with you, when you're done with the comic, this is a strong one. So the way I was kind of like saying it to myself was like, when I was done with the comic, I didn't feel that the comic was done with me. There were lasting echoes of the story that was there. It made me want to get the next one already. So my final verdict, who would enjoy this comic book? Supernatural religious horror people, people that enjoy a moral gray zone, people who want intensity first and polish later. This is going to be one of those 2 thumbs up moments for that. What is this comic book trying to achieve? It's not a good versus evil book. And it says it straight up in the description of the actual comic. It is what happens when wounded people face off against something that's bigger than themselves. And the emotional aspect of this comic book is really what drives it home. So it definitely achieved its goal. So high marks on that. And if I was to be nitpicky and if I was to have my way, one thing that I would change with the issue would maybe giving it a little bit more breathing room. Not less of what is actually there, but maybe a little bit more controlled pacing instead of going from that 5 to that 11. Maybe, having a couple points where it's a gradual escalation, not just everybody going, all the way up on the intensity right away. It's strongest in the pauses, where the reader can actually feels the emotion of the situations and the relationships that are in the book. So in my closing thoughts, I do like to let everybody know whether I think that this is a page turner or a page burner. And I guess you can tell probably by now that it is a page turner for sure. So Rob, thanks for being here, man. So yeah, you know what? Just because you're here, let me see if I can pull up. Let me go, because I know that we're live. And just as a real quick thing, what I will do, let me see if I can pull up the the actual pages. So thank you for commenting. I just now looked up and saw that you were actually commenting in here. Comics to be reviewed. Faint, issue 2. Will this allow me? I'm going to take that out of there. I'm going to add.
Are you still live?
Yeah. What's up?
Somebody stole Omni's bike.
All right. I would normally go over and share more of the artwork, guys, but it does sound like something came up and I'm going to have to let you go. But we're sitting right at 20 minutes. If you guys have any questions or concerns, want to see a little bit more, hit me up. I'm willing to share. I've been given permission to show a little bit of stuff, but you know what? You should definitely look up Faint on the campaign page. I'll try to put it in the show notes so you guys can check it out. If you guys see Rob commenting on YouTube here, go ahead and give him a follow. Do all the things. So hopefully I'm doing a good job. Hopefully you guys can see that I'm stepping it up in these reviews, and you guys see the difference between the technical side of the reviews that I would normally do, like say for like a webzine or something like that, and then giving you my honest opinion as a comic reader, a comic lover, and a comic creator. Anyways, like I said, my name's Sean Barbour. I am Instinct Comics, and Rob, thanks for the compliment. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for the opportunity. And this has been Instincts Comics and my unprofessional opinion. Hope you guys have a good night. Until next time, like I said, dude's only got a few days left, so you got to get in there before it's too late. We are sitting at 8 days to go. So get in on the action, get Faint 1 and 2, get them both. And if you don't have much and you want to just, get something, get the digital at least, guys. Show some love. Anyway, peace. I'll catch you next time.